everyone, and welcome to Incendiary for this week. We have a great topic and some great guests. Something going on in the background there, but no issues. Guys, welcome to the show. We've got with us Blue Samurai Zero. How you doing, Blue?
I'm doing okay. How are you? I just got home from work. How are you doing?
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, work ended quite a while ago for me, so I had some videos to throw together and some highlights from last week to share, which should make everyone tremble. How you doing, SmilingBandito? You're with us too.
Hail and well met. I am fantastic.
Awesome. So yeah, I told the guys that we would first say hey to the chat. Now, back at 7:30, Dave Brink from Genuine Comics came on and said hail. That was about 1:30 in the morning for him because he's in the Netherlands. So hopefully Dave will have a chance to watch this later on the replay. Good that you came to say hey. We've got Paul from AGE Comics with us. Hello, sir. Blue is on the panel and in the chat. Randy Howell is with us. Thanks for being here, Randy. And and then Paul says hi to Blue Samurai Zero. So hey, thanks for being here, everyone. Thank you for those of you who watch on the replay. It's great to have you here. We've got a couple of highlights, like I said. So the first one here is, of course, it's Blue.
I attribute all the wins that have been had on this channel to the fact that we usually debate false bifurcation fallacies as opposed to straightforward yes/nos.
And we had this group talk. Oh, here we go. Jay's already put up his idea on it. Depends on what's being gate kept.
That's a good
if
point.
It's quality, yes.
Well, so if it's not quality, I think that kind of makes the choice for it because nobody will stand up for it, right? No one's going to try and hold on to what is there. So
right,
kind of makes its own.
You say that, and then Velma gets a season 2. So,
ooh, yeah,
ooh, he's shots fired already. And then Paul also made this great point. It sounds like he's not going somewhere with it, but well, you'll see.
Like you're being shadow banned because someone somewhere decided something sometime in your past was something wrong, so you can't have your campaign.
It still sounds like he didn't know where he's going.
Right?
Somewhere. He went somewhere with it.
It was kind of fun, though.
Somewhere, somehow, sometime. Yeah.
All right. So, guys, our show tonight, we have some great guests and a debate to get to. So with no further ado, let's bring them on. Here's Andy Smith with us. Hi, Andy. How you doing?
Hello. I'm doing good, thanks. How's everybody else doing on this fine evening?
Very good.
Wonderful.
Very good. Yep.
Good, thanks.
And also with us is his writer, Dennis Turner. How are you, Dennis?
Live long and prosper. Doing great.
Always throwing up gang signs over there.
That's right.
I know, right?
This is great. We get a twofer tonight.
That's right.
Jake bailing on us means that the numbers are even once again.
Oh, that's right. Absolutely. So, well, first of all, of course, this is the debate section. So,
welcome, everyone, to the official debate section. This debate is being conducted under health and safety protocols designed by the Cleveland Clinic.
Always be safe, guys.
And getting their fingers
again. I grabbed my balls and coughed before the show. Everything's good, nice and safe.
Everything's fully functional. Good to hear. Good to hear. Mm-hmm. So, also, too, as I was telling the guys behind the scenes before the show started, sometimes we're selected to be on a team that we don't agree with necessarily. So we always throw this disclaimer up when we remember.
Definitely the best way to head into a nice, serious debate.
Exactly.
Right. So, I heard you clearing your throat there, trying to remind me. So, absolutely. Blue, can you set us up?
Oh, right. Setting us up today. What is it, the writing or the art? What makes for a strong character?
So that's what we're going to be debating tonight. What I'll do is I will then fill in for Jake and explain how these guys are going to be sided and what they'll do to select who's on their team. So, Andy, you will, of course, select the fact that art is what makes a character strong. Mm-hmm. And Dennis, you will take the side that it's the writing that makes a character strong.
Well, unless Andy should pick, Andy, you should pick which side you want to be on. But understand.
Guys, you're embarrassing me. You always fight about how the show is going to go.
I
That's
You
part of the
choose which
fun.
side you want to be on, but understand Dennis is going to pick the opposite side.
I know. I
So
know.
it's-
Well, he always does, even in our regular conversations.
Yeah,
Those,
that's
you know, I'll be like, pizza's fantastic. And as soon as he takes a bite, he'll be like, it sucks. And I'm like, but you just ate. It doesn't matter. I have to disagree with everything.
Your pizza isn't pizza; it's cheese bread. So that's what I'm saying.
No, it's
See?
cheese pizza, Dennis.
So, Andy, are you taking the art?
Yes, I'll take the art
Of
side.
course you.
Okay. So, Andy, having selected the
arm
art
twisting.
side, you need
Yeah.
to select which of us, myself, Blue Samurai Zero, or Smiling Bandito, will be on your side for the debate.
Oh, I'll take Blue Samurai.
Okay.
Why not?
Okay.
So, Blue Samurai, I'm going to move you over here. Yep. Okay. And then, Dennis, you decide if you want Smiling Bandito or me on your side of the debate.
I'll take you because I think he'll be the moderator then.
That's right. Bandito will be the
Oh my
moderator.
goodness. This is my first time. I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
It's a role you've not yet filled. How about that?
Everybody remembers their first time. Don't worry.
That's
It's
right.
true. Andy Smith, Dennis, you were my first time.
Okay. It's not the first time I've heard that.
Okay,
Wow, that's
awesome. All right, what we'll do then, Andy, we're going to ask you to start and state your case, and then from there, Bandito will moderate and call us as to when it's our turn.
Okay. Well, it's comic books. It's not novels. It's comic books. You go to a comic book store, you walk in, the art is what grabs you. Nobody's ever looked at a rack of books and thought, ooh, that it's the writing. I can tell. Just look at the amount of words in this book. I've got to pick it up. It must be great. No, they look and they're like, oh my God, this art is just grabbing me by the throat. It's pulling me in. I got to read this book. And when it comes to art carrying across for strong characters, when back in the early 90s, when Bart Sears and I were working together, we were doing stuff for Toy Biz, and they would give us these characters to do turnaround drawings of for them to sculpt toys from. And some of the characters were just the lamest, stupidest looking things we've ever seen. But we always said it comes down to the art. If you can draw it cool, any character can look cool. And a great example is Eric the Red. That is one of the dumbest looking characters I've ever seen. And he's from the X-Men. I'm sure Dennis knows who Eric the Red is.
I do.
And we were looking at the design and it was just like, this is just ridiculous. But then when we were done drawing it, he looked fantastic. And then I actually had to draw him in X-Men 350 and he just looked great. Any artist can take a character that might be weak and, make them come across just as, strong, projecting confidence, because it comes down to how we want to, do the body posturing on the page and maybe tweak things in the visuals of the costumes and stuff. And we just have the control to do that. The writer, it's comics. It's just, you
right.
buy them for the art. So
Andy has come out swinging strong. Dennis,
Strong. I barely
give us
consider
your
that a
rebuttal.
standing single.
oh,
Look, he did have one point there. When you do walk in, the art is what grabs you on the cover of a book. But that, alas, is not what the debate is. The debate is how it's a strong character. And just grabbing your attention, which is what the whole point of an artist is, to grab your attention on the book, does not make a strong character. So a strong character is not only the way, so like when I create a character, right? I don't just say, oh, I want a redhead. I want it to look like this. I want it to look like Jean Grey, right? That's not a character. The character, I create a list of 100 questions that you have to ask in order to build the background and the depth for it. And the story has to come across of that character to build it. Yeah, it can look nice, and yeah, this creature can look this or that. But that doesn't mean it's a strong character just because it looks good. My example would be, and that's why I was going to grab my book, I was trying to find it, Order of the Stick. Some of you may be familiar with Order of the Stick. Order of the Stick is a fantastic art, but it's this type of art. There's my drawing of First Man because I can't draw anything. And there is Teen Sensation Billy Tucci She. Do you notice the similarity? That's right. This looks very much like Order of the Stick. And yet the comic books that they put out are stunning in terms of their story. You just burst out laughing and everything. You like the characters, and it is literally stick figures. So it is the writing and how you create the character that builds the strength of a comic book.
Interesting. So Andy comes up. This is very indicative of who is an artist and who is a writer, because Andy painted this big, bold picture for us of what it means, and Dennis comes at us with stick figures. So
Correct.
Hey, careful! It sounds like you're taking sides.
All right, Blue. I think it's time for you to weigh in on this.
Oh wait, okay. I don't understand.
It's not a
comics
fat
writing.
joke. It's not a fat joke at your expense.
If you're not making fat jokes at my expense, why am I here? Okay,
You're
anyway.
not fat in any way, shape, or form. This guy's like out there bench pressing and throwing
not this
around,
week, trust me. But anyway, I'm
throwing
trying to
kids around in martial arts class.
where the hell were my thoughts? What'd you do to me? Stop that. So, what was I going to start with? Okay.
Well, as Blue,
you want to grab me in a visual medium, you can't just have writing. You have to be able to grab me, but it's not just the writing. The artist has to, in comics, or even a filmmaker, but we're doing comics, has to convey visual cues that tell the story. That's where the art really matters. And, those might be written, but it's still up to the art. You can do so much in shorthand with visual cues that you can't do just with writing in a comic. That's my argument that says you need art to make a strong character.
All right, swinging it back to the other side.
Sorry, I'm boring.
I like it.
Sweet.
No, nobody said that, Blue. You're just
It's
wrong.
succinct.
Because-
That's all it is. It's succinct. See, writers will go in and they'll get all fluffy with stuff and lots of words, and then that people think, oh, this guy must be smart because look at all this flowery writing he's doing and all these words. Whereas we are nice and tight and succinct, and boom, get it across.
I can tell you're
A picture tells 1,000 words.
because you can't even pronunciate words.
You mean enunciate? What does a pronunciate mean?
All right.
all
Well, the short and
sounds like-
succinct swings its weight back over to Dojo.
So yeah, talking about writers being flowery, and that sounds like my cue. Here's the thing: a lot of artists have taken a shot at a character like Cyclops of the X-Men. Let's stick with the X-Men for a minute here. Cyclops has been written by a number of different storytellers, but I'm going to bring up Chris Claremont for example. Claremont would write Cyclops as a fantastic leader, friend, etc. But then, later the character, despite how he's depicted by people like John Byrne, Jim Lee, etc., he can look fantastic on the page, but through the years, the character has become weaker and weaker as far as leadership goes. Now, I'm not talking about his powers, but as far as a strong character is concerned, I think that it completely depends on how it's written, because the X-Men or the Cyclops of the Claremont Byrne days was a far stronger character than we have today.
No argument for me on that. I think that's absolutely correct. And you picked Cyclops, and he is the only X-Men that I've mostly despised throughout the entire run of the X-Men. He's my least favorite of just about anybody. I just have never been able to stand him. But when Claremont did it, he did it well, and I liked him. But you're right. Current version of him, he is terrible, and they don't know how to write Cyclops at all anymore.
So, right, with that in mind, no matter how great he looks, whether he stands stoically or heroically, doesn't make it a strong character just because he's got the right suit on or the right pose.
Interesting. Well, you guys have all made some pretty good points. But I think Dennis gets 6 points just for hating Cyclops. And so, Blue, when you're
I have a cross-referential counter argument to that, because I'm sorry if I'm echoing. Just let me know if I am. I've been up walking around trying to find examples. I have a question. How do you make a story about a housewife of 30 years interesting in a comic?
A housewife of 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you have to give her a great backstory.
Okay. Well, I think that it matters
nude.
if this is that housewife. I've got big points to make here. This is why she's interesting. So, I made you.
Oh, well, that goes back to what Randy said. For a female,
That's right.
Character art is paramount. If she ain't got boobs, I don't pay attention. So, not that I agree with him. I'm just reading his comment.
Right.
So just to gain some context here, Blue, is that a housewife of 30 years?
Actually, yes. Oh, sorry. Wait, where am I? Camera mute. Yeah, I'm live. Yeah, actually, I don't know if it's 30 years, but I took a rough estimate, and I think it is. I read this book a year and a half ago. So.
Gotcha.
You know, I look at it like this with your Cyclops example. While I agree with how he was written by Claremont compared to today, but if I had one of the scripts that was handed down today, you know, sure, I could look at it, and while I don't have control over what comes out of his mouth, dialogue wise, I do have control over the posing and the compositions in the panel and stuff. And if I do my job correctly, if somebody picks it up to just thumb through in a comic book store before they buy it, you know, my job is to get them to want to buy the book. So if I do a really cool enough job of drawing Cyclops, then they'll just flip through it and be like, dude, this guy looks badass. I got to buy this.
All right.
And
so
that,
what are you talking about, though?
that is the selling point of the art on the book, is I just made them really cool.
No, what you did was you did the marketing part of it. You made the flash work. You made them buy the book. That's awesome. Because,
Right.
yes,
I
the
made
artist had
them
a-
buy the book.
However,
No.
that doesn't make the character strong. That
You
made them buy the
provided
book.
the sizzle for the steak. You didn't provide the steak. This would be the steak itself. Now, here's an example of Order of the Stick that I was telling you about. This is not fantastic artwork.
No.
However,
How dare you? You can't do it.
I can do that. I mean, I literally just showed you my version of First Man. That I could do. Order of the Stick is a great comic, and and it's about D&D guys that are down in a dungeon. It's their group together, how they die, how they come back, their thing. It is one of the most enjoyable books that you will read. You can buy them in collected graphic novels. This artwork, there is no sizzle at all in this artwork. But the story is based on those characters. You learn to love the different classes. You learn to love their idiosyncrasies. It is the strength of the writing in the characters, the tropes that they put in there, and what. That is a book that I used to buy all the time. I think I own them all. Just saying, there is your steak. It's in the writing. And we don't need Andy Sizzle to do that.
So Dennis likes very simple things. Okay.
All right.
Point taken.
Yep.
It reminds me of that one band that was popular in the late 80s. Well, they were British. What was their... Oh, they got a track on the Breakfast Club soundtrack. Who was that?
Level 47.
Don't You Forget About Me? Who
Simple
sang
Mind.
that?
Oh,
Oh, Simple
Don't
Minds,
You
yes.
Forget About Me. Who's saying Don't You Forget About Me? I'm
we all
awful.
forgot. No, it's Simple Minds.
Simple Minds.
Oh,
there
Simple
we go.
Minds.
Right.
Like I said, Dennis has a simple mind for those things. So.
See,
And
here
yet I was the one who came up with it. Thank you.
we've got our strong female lead character. You can see the anguish she has at putting up with her husband's idiocy, which is essentially you don't get that just from the writing. The artist has to be there to show us what emotions she's going through and what happens in this particular story. I was looking for another example in color. And what does happen, even when later she's fighting, her expression tells us many things. He's getting kidnapped. Nobody cares about him. Her expression tells us her emotional states. This is important in storytelling. So definitely the art must be present to make a strong character. And look at this, strong female lead character too.
That's right. She saves the day.
She was after Hunger Games. She must have been.
Yeah. There wasn't any strong female characters before our gal Jennifer
Before
Lawrence.
Katniss, right?
Nope.
That's right.
There absolutely was an alien.
There
did
were not.
exist.
Nope.
Writing alone would not give us what art gives us in terms of a strong character. It's just, here it is.
Okay,
writing
so
alone-
I
Blue.
agree. Great example.
Blue, if you take this example and you take sorry, what was the stick book called?
Order of the Stick.
Order of the Stick. So if you take this and put it right beside Order of the Stick, how do you make your argument against both being, critically successful?
Let me think about that. I'm trying to look for other examples too.
Hey, just don't pull out more Andy Smith books. It doesn't get you extra points.
Yeah.
Yes,
So,
it does.
and the reason I asked Blue is because in both examples, you have where the story has been significant. And now in your example, you're saying the art. But if both of them have had good writing, then how does your argument stand up against the art? If one,
It's simple. Have you ever seen the film Amadeus?
yeah,
It's based on a play.
yeah,
Okay, the play is
with
curiously.
Mozart. So Amadeus was a composer during Mozart's time, and he was the belief in Amadeus was that he's overshadowed by Mozart himself, even though the two actually worked together on quite a few things.
Oh yeah,
Wasn't
the
it
film isn't
Wolfgang
factual at all.
Amadeus Mozart?
Just a minute, I'm plugging back in so I can quit yelling at you guys.
Bandito?
What's that?
Wasn't his full name Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart?
He's thinking of Salieri.
Amadeus was his father's name. Sorry, and the other, who was the other composer? Maybe the other composer wasn't.
Blue, what name did
Salieri.
you say? Salieri.
Yeah. Sorry, that was the other guy. That was.
No biggie, Bandito. It's just a slip of the tongue. Okay,
Yeah.
so when I first saw Amadeus, I was a kid, and of course it's not factual. The two were not at odds in some psychological way that like the film presented. But my father told me after I saw the film, he said, "Look, this is what the character Salieri, not the man, because it's not truly biographical. The character was really chasing there was to understand beauty." And that's what that film was for, was, as my father put it, to explain beauty to stupid people. Most of the lines in Shakespeare are written to call people's attention to the stage at key points in the story so they could basically follow, because the audience was getting drunk in out there in the theater. A lot of this stuff is not made for was never made for a lot of really great stuff was made knowing that there are audiences that don't understand a bar of soap from a beautiful sculpture. And that's why stick figures are so popular.
Okay,
I know that's mean.
What?
All right. So
I think I got that. Everybody can relate to a stick figure.
Argument would
Yeah.
be, on our show tonight, we had done a look at, we did an hour-long show on Marvel Fanfare, the comic books that started out in 1982. And it was just kind of a look. We each grabbed some of our favorite ones. One of the books was a pinup book, but the other one was the Hulk story that is all splash pages, right? So there wasn't exactly a lot of writing. So you'd look at it, and even the people in the chat were like, "Oh God, that's a beautiful picture. Oh God, that's a really cool picture. oh, there's Hulk doing this, going, and it's cool. Again, it's sizzle. We love looking at the art, but that's not the story. The good stories that were in there were the ones like the X-Men. If you looked at the first 4 issues, where it was Sauron and you had Kazar and you had all of this, and the art's in there, but it's all the story and the dialogue that went into it. Again, you're the sizzle. I'm the, oh, wow, I need to buy the next issue because the story is so good. I'm the full meal. You get to be the sound leading up to say, oh, maybe I would buy that.
Oh, please. I know people that'll buy continuous runs of a book month after month because it looks really good. And they're like, yeah, the story's okay, but man, look at this shine.
They don't
look at it.
They're picture books. You might as well just have pop-up books for them because
oh,
that's
please,
the type of person that does that. They're not interested.
That is not the type of person that does that. Because I know people that'll read a book and be like, that was a really good read, but God, I just can't get past these visuals. I'd rather just read this as a novel, then I don't have to pain myself looking at these bad visuals.
Well, that's a pretty good. Yeah, both of those points end up creating some strong feelings. I can tell. Yeah, and in the audience as well. I'm sure that there's going to be people on either side of it. So both of you can get a point for that. I think the show is going to be
hard to read.
Lou, hold on. The show ends up getting -5 points for breaking up this team here of Andy and Dan. So now, how do you feel? And this is a lightning round. Anybody can jump in on this. How do you guys feel about the same comic selling multiple times with different covers?
Well,
so
what we're talking about there, Bandito, is, again, it's the Flash. It's a collector who sees a picture, very understanding that all of the content is the exact same, and they're buying it, the variant cover, just because of the Flash, the picture on the cover. That does not mean that there's strong characters inside. It just means that the picture on the cover is pretty. The strong character will depend on what happens when you read it. Now, back to Blue's point about the character there that Andy had drawn. Yeah, she was beautiful. Yes, the expressions on her face were captured very well, but the script said she is distraught because her man's being kidnapped. So the script made the character, gave him the idea, and then he, skillfully depicted it. But the fact that the character was distraught came from the writer.
Yeah, and the whole point of the variant covers is it is what almost destroyed the comics in the 90s. And Marvel and DC are trying to do it again because it's the only way they can inflate their numbers right now. So the whole point of the variant cover, you're kind of making the point for us. There's a little sizzle and the collector's like, oh my God, X-Men #1 came out for volume 7 now because they relaunched it. So I need all 13 covers to show that I bought 13 X-Men #1s. And that has nothing to do with strong characters. You're not actually making any point at all on the characterizations. That's purely a collector's mindset, which I was one of them. I collected all the variant covers, and I'm a completist. So I'm kind of the disease.
Yeah, variant covers to me, I don't mind them. I understand the reasoning behind them, but it's up to the consumer to pick what they want and buy which one they want. I think to me, it's just giving more choice to the buyer to pick from. And like Dennis said, if you're a completist, then you just get them all, because I've done that as well. So
I too am a completist, and what Marvel did with Secret Wars 2, 47 variant covers, some of which were store exclusives. So unless you had some kind of connection over in Denver for Mile High Comics or in Manhattan for the fact of the matter is, the day after those went on sale, because there were only, let's say, 100 of them supplied to Mile High Comics, They were being flipped for $300, $350
Sure.
because there were so few of them. What that does to a completist collector is completely defeats you, because there's no way you're going to get a hand on all 47 of those covers. So in a sense, they shot themselves in the foot, because where I might have tried to get them all, they made it impossible. And therefore I only bought like one or two of them rather than trying to get a bunch of them, because there was no way I could do it. So the covers, it's just all flash. I mean, they're beautiful. I love so many of them. It's hard to decide sometimes. Like Andy said, it's a choice you make. But boy, not being able to, you can't gauge the strength of the characters until you read how they're written.
Ooh, I have something on that. If you want to tell me that she's distraught, and you just told me that because it's in the script, as a reader, you're not gripping me, and we're not talking about novels. We're talking, where you can do other things with words. We're talking about comics, like I backed away from movies earlier. And in comics, it needs those visual cues. You can't have the strong character without showing me visually. For example, now, my apologies to anybody watching this, where I tried to find the color version of this because it's a little bit easier to see the examples on that one. But I had the black and white handy because I've been rereading with the black and white. In this book, oh, thank you, I'm huge now. Let's see, I'm going to skip ahead to a particular page.
Are you making fat jokes at your own expense now?
Self-deprecation.
See, you assumed he was talking about his, his body.
There we go. If I can brighten that down a little. I have a lamp that I move. Let's see. In this, it is a little tougher to see because it's the line art edition, even though it's lettered. The artist here sets the stage, and the city up here, the coloring, this is blatantly intended to be colored, but you get to set the stage, and you can see a bunch of different characters, and they all have different builds on them, which is used to tell us about what the character is going to be like, and then we see that later, visual cues still. This character over here, I think, is the same as the guy on the next page, but it's not necessary that he might be. And we have bullies up here. We can see who the lead thug is in the bully. And we get those visual cues to tell us things about what's going on without it having to be written out in lots of words. In other words, exposition, retold in dialogue, et cetera, and anger on his face with a bloody nose and whatnot. But if you look at the back of his neck, this dude's huge. I mean, he's thick. Look at that. So anyway, I am a fan of Neil Towski's art. He's very good at making different faces, so I compliment him there. But these visual cues in here tell us this pencil-armed, pencil-neck cop is not going to be very useful in a fight. And that gives us anger and aggression, which we can see coming out of this particular bully. These cues are necessary for telling us the story and telling us who characters are on the inside, not just facial expressions. Even though we can tell this guy's knocked out. But if a writer just wants to say he's knocked out, well, obviously that might be in the script, but we're not writing for a novel. We're writing for visuals here. And that's my deal.
Yeah.
See, that's a good argument, except for one part you're missing. All of those beautiful visual cues that you're pointing out, it's the writer's job, not just to put the words down and say, when I submit a script, there's not just word bubbles that say, okay, this is what the character's saying. It's also a full description of everything that's behind it, what the character looks like, the full visualizations, and then the artist is interpreting or, wind up going back and forth. But it's the writer that winds up putting all of that information, and then the artist has to take those visual cues from the script and then apply them to it. So then the writer's not only doing all the writing and setting up the strong characterization, he's also putting all that information into the script. The artist has to then interpret it and then use their perspective in order to make it. See, in the end, it's a complete collaboration for a really good comic book, because you need both.
Because I'm not reading a script. I need both because I'm not reading a script. I'm reading the pictures and the dialogue and the narration.
But with all that writers up front, you wouldn't get what you see on that paper.
It's okay, Blue. I'll give you 1 point for that whole argument for making Dennis's point for him.
Wait,
all right.
I got a whole point? I've never gotten an entire point before.
I will like to bring up Ali's question there again.
Oh, yeah.
Can great art save a poor story? Dennis, I'm going to actually put that to you since it's specific. If the writer has come out with a poor story, do you think a artist can save it?
No, absolutely not. It doesn't mean you're not going to pick it up and go, "Oh, that looks nice. That looks nice." So when you say, "Can it save the story?" Can a great story save poor art? Yes. So I see what she's asking. The question is, I have to think about how I want to word this. So
We don't do that on this show.
book, because you're not just picking up an issue, because usually, so the way to think of it is, I'm picking up an X-Men title. We'll just stay with the X-Men. If the story is really solid, but they've got a guest artist on there, I know I'm going to keep picking up the book after it, because they're going to get a artist on there, because the story is strong. I pick up, and you guys, maybe if you see me on my channel, I pick up new books every day, a lot of independents. I do quick flips with them. If people are interested, I'll continue on them. Like Creep Show, I was just trying to find. Gargoyles came out, right? So those of you who like Gargoyles, they are relaunching this. This is Perillo artwork. It looks great. And I pick it up because of a Perillo cover. But the inside story, this isn't exactly phenomenal artwork, but the story is so good. If you were a fan of the cartoon, you would love the way this is written. The inside art is not so good, but I will pick it up over and over again, and it's on my pull list. A great art piece, if it's a single book, I might pick it up because of the art, but I won't continue to buy the book month after month after month. If it's a great story, I will continue to pick up that book forever, even if the art's not so good. And Maniac of Manhattan is probably my favorite example of that. I am not fond of the artwork. It was very stylized. It just wasn't very realistic. But Colin Bunn did a great job of such a good story. I bought the entire series, regardless of what I felt about the artwork.
All right, I'll swing it back over to Andy here. I got a question again from the chat. If the artist does the art first, how do you feel if you have a poor script and you have to fill it out with the art? The extension of that being, have you ever had to work without a script in order to?
Well, no. I mean, I've even old Marvel method. It wasn't just go draw something and then the writer will fill in the word balloons. It was
like Kirby and Ditko often had to like draw.
Well, that was
notes in the sides.
They would still sometimes have a chat with Stan.
Yeah,
and when Marvel first started, it was just a handful of books. So Stan and each individual artist could talk for like, an hour or so. The artist could take notes and then go home and draw it. And then Stan would get the pages back to actually fill in the scripting of the dialogue and stuff.
And so have you ever had to work that way? Have you ever had to work that way?
No, I've worked the Marvel way, which is the plot style, where the writer doesn't do a full script, which says, page 1, panel 1, blah, 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 panel 2, blah, blah, blah. That's full script. Plot style is page 1, and then there's just this loose paragraph of what's happening. That's how Mark Grunwald wrote when I did Quasar. That's how Chris Claremont wrote when I did a couple issues of X-Men Forever with him. I prefer working that way sometimes because it just gives me more freedom to break up the page the way I want to in regards to the panels, how many panels, the camera angles and everything are totally left up to me. And even in full script they are too, because like Randy Howell said earlier, Joe Kubert did say that, once you got the script, from the writer, whether it's full script or plot. It's yours now. So if you feel you need to make some changes to it to make it a stronger story, you go ahead and do that, because it's yours now. So I do think with the question earlier about can great art save a poor story and vice versa, I think so. Because if the artist knows what they're doing and they can see the weaknesses in the story, then they'll make adjustments when they're drawing it to make it a stronger story. And at that point, even if it's a full script, any writer that writes a full script, worth their salt, because some don't do this, will always look at the pages and go back in to see what the artist did to go, oh, I need to adjust some of the dialogue, even though they wrote a full script. Now, there are some writers that write full script that are like, oh no, I've been paid, I'm done, just send it off, I don't need to see the stuff again. And few and far between, but there are some. And then same thing, if the art's not that great, the writer can, has to do a little more work on the back end to go, okay, not what I was expecting. I gotta beef this up some to make it work. So I think it's a yes to both of those questions. The artist is, to me, it, like Dennis said, it is a collaboration. It should be a 50-50. Sometimes it doesn't work that way. You hope it would. I've worked with writers before where, I would just read the script and be like, how did they even, get some of the stuff they're writing is just dumb. It's like, how did you get this job?
On that dumb note,
we never watched Amadeus.
So both of you guys get 0 points for that because you kind of canceled out each other's argument, and Ali instead gets 2 points in the audience. So speaking of getting it done, let's turn it over to your campaign. Kor-Drath is currently up and running. Let's go through that a little bit. And we'll hand it back to Dojo.
All right. So yeah, guys, I have it up on the screen. I can drive for you. So whichever of you would like to walk us through it, I'll do my best to follow along.
I'll start and then Dennis can pick up. That's usually how we roll it. Kor-Drath, The Reckoning, it's a project. It's a book that Dennis and I came up with when we were actually driving to a con last year. I want to do something different after First Man, something basically totally different. And I want to do something more fantasy based. And basically I went to Dennis with the germ of an idea because I knew he had a background in Dungeons and Dragons and role playing and, just the amount of reading he's done when it comes to fantasy novels and such. And he's such a fan of it. And he's so really deep into that world that I thought he would be perfect to help bring this to life. So, we had a nice little chat on the way and, about what I wanted to do visually and what I wanted to draw. And then, of course, he went home, basically gave it some thought and came up with what I think is a really cool story, which he can take away with.
So this is an example of ultimate collaboration. So it really does. If you want something to be fantastic, you got to have the good writing, you got to have the good art, and they have to mesh. What you put in your head and what goes down on paper is pretty good. But as the artist goes through, and Andy knows this because we've been going back and forth on some things, he's like, hey, you put this, but what about this? I'm like, yeah, oh, that works if we do this. And we'll talk on the phone for 30 minutes or something like that, go over ideas, or if we're over doing our show, I'll look at the page or we'll talk. And it works, with full collaboration. I have never written a comic script. I played D&D since the early 80s. I finished before I moved to Charlotte here. I wound up finishing up and DM'd a 6-year campaign where it's writing. It was a large amount of writing and script and dialogue and stuff like that. I've done short stories. But when Andy asked that, I'm like, I got to learn how to do comic books now. It's a different way of writing. So as I did, I came up, I started writing. I submitted a partial script because I wanted Andy to look over, and he goes, all right, I usually get scripts like this and this and this, and this works better. I'm like, cool. Now I know how you want it so that you can interpret it, and I'll go ahead and redo it. And I wound up starting over from scratch and putting a whole new script together. And ta-da, that's what it wound up, this is what it winds up being.
Cool. Now tell them about the story.
So the story itself is, you guys already know, you guys got Andy's artwork. What's Andy great at? Big, strong men, really hot women. So he was like, what can we draw? And I was like, in this fantasy world, I said, this would be really great if we just start on the human side of things, and let's do a barbarian tribe. I mean, you can really capture the essence of what you want to do by using the barbarians. So we've got this large world, and we've made it, we're focusing in on one little area. And then we've got to be able to talk about the magic that's in the world and how it works and how the world develops. So it made sense that we'd have something like the barbarian tribes. There's a number of different barbarian tribes. Some get along, some don't. Bad things happen. Kor-Drath's tribe gets wiped out, and it's very cool. But you have to start unwrapping the mystery. Why did it happen? I know he's going to seek revenge, but who did it? Why did they did it? How did they do it? And then etc. So that's what it is. Adriana, that's the redhead. She's from a sister tribe. So after his tribe gets wiped out, they have to figure out who did it and how they're going to, seek revenge and stop whatever's going on.
Yeah, so basically Kor-Drath, like Dennis said, Kor-Drath and Adriana were out on a not a huge quest, but on a task, I guess is a better word, from the leader of the Red Lions tribe that Kor-Drath belongs to requested them to go do. And they come back and they see that the whole Red Lions tribe that Kor-Drath belongs to has been slaughtered. They don't know how, they don't know why, they don't know who did it. And that is where the mystery of the book comes in, is they have to find out they have to find out the answers to those questions. Who did it? Why'd they do it? Obviously, the person must have been after something. When you read through the campaign page, you'll see that it's the Necronite with Lilith that were behind the attack. They obviously don't know that, and that's what has to be unfolded as you read the story throughout the book. It's a story of revenge. It's a story of redemption. It's a nice classic hero's journey. Kor-Drath's not exactly a wimp or a wuss or anything in the beginning of the book, but he's also not a leader. So once all these events happen, he has to kind of become that leader instead, whatever, because his tribe is now gone. So
it's a hero's journey. And Lady Ali was asking about why were those animals fighting? So in the book, you start learning about why they all have their tattoos, but the tattoos just aren't ink on there. They're magical tattoos because magic works a particular way. The Jarls, or the chieftains, they have in theirs, they actually have their ancestral spirits or their protectors for their tribe in there. So the red lion, you see the red lion going at it, and then the anacondas were attacking. So they basically have their ancestral protectors going after one another, as well as the two Jarls physically will go after. And in the end, only one can come out.
Why, thank you. Yeah, so we say it's like Conan meets Game of Thrones with a little bit of Dungeons and Dragons thrown in. And the Conan part, is obviously the barbarian aspects, the savagery, and stuff like that. The Game of Thrones aspect, Game of Thrones, if you watch the show, it wasn't a simple A to Z. It definitely had layers to the storytelling in the show, and that's what this book has as well. And the Dungeons and Dragons part is, the bits of magic and stuff that are thrown into the book as well. We're both really excited about it. I'm working on, tomorrow I'll be starting page 30 of it. So it's kind of hard to believe that I'm over a third of the way through it.
Yeah, if you're on page 30,
when I think about it,
you're almost halfway, right? You're getting there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm averaging about 2 pages a week. So, which for me doing pencils and inks on this type of stuff isn't too bad with all the other stuff I do have going on. So, it's a fun project. I'm putting my all into it, but I do that with everything anyhow. And, I'd like to show more, but you got to hold stuff back. So
even though there's 76 pages, you don't want to put too many out there.
No, so I'll drip out. I'll finish a page, and instead of showing like a whole page, I'll crop it so it's just like one panel of a page and show that, and
begin the updates.
Hopefully that builds the interest and stuff.
Lady Ali, Jarls, isn't it pronounced Jarls? It is actually, yes. And the funny thing is, the trope I have, it's like blue curacao. I've always pronounced it blue Curacao, even back when we were running barbarian campaigns and stuff. It was a running joke about Jarls, so I have pronounced it Jarls my entire life, and I will probably continue to do it, even though she is correct. Properly pronounced Jarl.
So you think you would want to, on a stream where people don't know you, you might want to pronounce it the right way so people don't go, well, that guy's just a dipshit.
I was all ready to apologize for the insults I threw at Dennis that were just part of the game of the debate, but maybe I shouldn't,
Yeah, I know.
It's just like when we were talking, we were on one of the streams and it was about Dritz or Drizzit, in there. And you can go back and forth. The correct pronunciation was Drizzit du Erden. But we've all pronounced it Dritz going back to the 80s when Salvatore first wrote it. We will never change our pronunciation of it. And Jarls is the same thing. It became a running joke, and it's just Jarls forever and ever. And yes, even on streams, I can't help myself.
And see, he does it, but he infects me with this because he knows that. Honestly, I'm not. I've played Dungeons and Dragons as a kid just a couple times. This is, I don't want to say this isn't my wheelhouse. The part that isn't my wheelhouse is the D&D type stuff. That's not my wheelhouse. The barbarian stuff, that's fine. I've drawn that before.
Books, they just call them chieftains, and that.
But he says Jarls. So I assume that's how you say it. So now I say it that way, and people are too polite to correct me, but in their head, they're like, boy, that guy's a dumbass. Thanks, Dennis. Thank you so much.
You are so welcome, Andy.
Like I needed your help with people thinking I'm a dumbass.
Well, no, I've read your book. You don't need help.
Oh,
right.
Damn.
Jungle Book.
No, he meant my biography. I've only let him read it.
Okay.
Well, we can thank Lady Ali because she brought it up.
Well, thank you, Lady Ali. I appreciate. Hey, I'm glad you brought it up because now I know the next time we talk about it, I'm going to say, Dennis, it's Jarls. Would you please pronounce it the right way?
And
I do have to say, Dennis, that even though it was a running joke, once you learn the right way, I'm surprised you don't then use the right way.
No, again, it goes back to like blue Curacao. I will always pronounce that alcohol that it is literally a running joke. Or the word irregardless. It's not really a word, but you say it over and over again. My wife hates that word. So it has become part of the natural thing because irregardless of what you say, I'm going to use that word.
Right now, I
man.
am better friends with your wife than I am with you.
See, like, I can understand. This is actually a better debate. I can understand where Dennis is coming from because his wife hates it. So she knows that idiosyncrasy of Dennis and what he's going to do. But other people don't. So they just hear him say irregardless and go, what?
I mean, look at what it did to Allie.
Just so you know, and you can now look it up. It has now been added to the dictionary, both Oxford, Webster's, as an actual word. So, as it has transcribed over the years, it is now officially a real word. So I'm not wrong. It just offends many people. Like saying the word moist. Some people really hate that word. Doesn't bother me at all.
See, I don't like the word moist, but it's a real word that you pronounce right. So
I think he pronounces it
It's now
correctly.
also a real word. You can verify that.
It is interesting to see how language has changed. And I mean, every generation actually has something like that. Every generation has an irregardless. I mean, even when we say stuff like revitalize, the RE prefix, or not RE. So RE at the beginning of any word that has that is actually a very recent development in our language.
Yeah.
And none of that, all of that has come over since, mostly through like the Americans changing and repurposing words in order to fit the things that they're doing. So
Yeah, it's very
Webster
much
for that.
when children make bad plurals incorrect plurals or incorrect past tenses because they're trying to fit a pattern. But now we have people who are so illiterate they don't know any patterns. In linguistics class, this is what they taught us was everybody in linguistics kind of knows language changes faster, not where reading is the lowest, because there are cultures that don't read and write. Language changes the fastest where education is the lowest. So where there's a lack of education, language changes really fast.
right.
And so are we ready for the sermon at the end now for our
Yes, I was just going to
falsification?
say, Bandito, could you please give us your final thoughts section?
Absolutely. So, when we were looking at the art and writing of a story, there are clearly ways each can hold the other back. When it comes to the style and purpose of each publication, art and story must complement each other or suffer the detachment and even ridicule of the audience the creators are trying to reach. So truly, it is disingenuous of us to even have this debate. It's nearly a wasted hour, if not for the entertainment value, to try and detract from
There
either
was
side.
value?
The writer's creativity and guidance in the blueprint they develop is nothing short of absolutely necessary, just as any building requires a blueprint for the construction crews to even put a shovel in the ground. And no matter how much someone may try to bury the importance of the art, in this visual medium, we are trying to create a sanctuary and display for the reader's imagination to see wondrous and amazing things. And at the end of any project that we're building, why would we settle for anything else than that holy grail achievement of the reader sitting back and praising both the art and the writing that brought them the entertainment and escape they didn't even know how much they were needing from both?
Wow, well said,
Exactly.
sir. That's why
It's
we
like
put
peanut
him on
butter
the-
and jelly.
That's why
They
we put
just
him on
go
the final
together
thought.
perfectly.
Amen.
Peanut butter and chocolate.
That too.
I was
Another
waiting
debate.
for the Reese's Pieces or Reese's Peanut Butter Cup comment.
That too.
All right. Thank you so much, Bandito, for those final thoughts. And of course, I want to say thank you to Dennis and Andy for joining us for this hour to have this fun debate. And of course, go over Kor-Drath, which, like one of our chat members said, looks like it's going to be badass. Oh, and then look at this.
76 pages of badassery.
That's
I love
right.
saying two words that mean the same thing. 76 pages of fun, action-packed adventure. You will love it. Guaranteed. 5 different covers to choose from. A hardcover artist editions. 2 different t-shirts. A beanie. So much stuff. Kor-Drath.com. You can read the first 8 pages of the book. and see how strong the characters are because of Dennis's writing and my art.
That's right.
Together.
Oh man, this is such a success. We broke you guys apart and we brought you together. This is like
I don't
It
think we did
is.
anything.
It's just so much. And I am knee deep writing the module right now. So for those of you that do any gaming, you will have the module to add all the story and depth and flesh out more of the world by having a little game at your fingertips.
That's
Fantastic. Those of you who are into the TTRPGs will definitely love that. Thank you guys so much.